Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Happy Vlogmas Day 11. I'm so excited. I cannot believe I did 11 days. But nonetheless, we're going to start off today's video because I feel like this is going to be a long one because I like to talk a lot. But I'm going to be giving out 5 tips, and don't mind my nails, I know. 5 tips for beginner photographers. So if you're someone who is like interested in starting photography, or you know someone who's interested in starting photography, then this will probably be the perfect video for you, especially because I am only 2 years in the game. So I consider myself to still be a beginner photographer, like my own self. But here are like 5 things that I just feel like if you're starting out to kind of just take into account. So we're gonna jump right into the video. First things first on the list. Number one, learn your camera. So picking out a camera, I think, is very important in how you end up starting your photography journey, like whether it becomes like a hobby or whether you eventually like turn it into like a career for yourself. Learn your camera. Take the time to figure out what kind of camera that you want for yourself. I think I spent at least 5 months trying to figure out what camera I wanted for myself, and I eventually landed on a Canon Rebel T7. And then after that, I pretty much studied my camera before I purchased it. So I'd watch like YouTube videos on like people using the camera, the settings and things like that. So I learned my camera before I even got my camera, right? But then obviously, like when I got my camera, you still have to learn your camera. You still have to learn ISO, aperture, shutter speed. Those are things you're going to need to learn in order for you to want to eventually be good at what you're doing, again, whether or not it's like a hobby or something that you transition into a career. But learning your camera, definitely the first thing on the list. Number two that is on the list, free work. You're gonna have to do a whole bunch of, well, actually no, not a whole bunch of, but you're gonna have to do some sort of free work in order to eventually, one, be comfortable with your camera, two, have the confidence in yourself to take other people's photos, and three, just to be able to, again, get better at your craft, right? So that's gonna have to be a lot of free work for friends, free work for family, friends of friends, right? Maybe even free events. But there's going to have to be some sort of practice that you put into in order to, again, perfect your craft. Me, for example, again, like I learned my camera before I got it. Then I got my camera, kind of played around with it. But I needed that free work, or I needed that work to eventually like figure out, okay, like this is how I do um certain things, or this is what my ISO should look like when it's like nighttime, or this is what the type of setting that I like in this kind of scenery, or whatever the case may be. But again, a lot of free work in order for you to again figure out like how is it that you're eventually going to utilize your camera, and a lot of free work in regard to perfecting your craft. Number three, and I'm gonna be looking over here because that's where I wrote everything down. Number three, invest in yourself. So you're going to need some sort of investment when it comes to photography. And no, it does not have to be expensive because again, I bought a Canon Rebel T7 back in 2021. I think I bought it for either 350 or 400. I'm not sure right now like what the price of it would be, especially since it's obviously going to be like an older model. Um, but that was about 350, 400 worth. And then I think 2 years later, so around 2023 is when I actually bought my 50 millimeter lens, and that went for like 150, 200, I think. So again, close to about $600. Which if you ask like other like photographers and things like that, that's pretty like on the inexpensive side of things. But again, that was still like an investment. That's still like $500-600 that I had to invest in my work, in order for me to again perfect my craft. And again, I'm not done, right? I still am going to need other things. I'm gonna want a flash, which I'm in the process of getting. I'm gonna want another lens. Me personally, I want to get into sports photography, and the current lens that I want, is a Canon 70 to 200 mm. And if you're a photographer, you already know the price of that. But if you're someone who's not into photography, that is $2,000 for one lens. One lens, $2,000. The cheapest I've seen it go for, I think, was 1,800, 18 or 1,900. But regardless, that's $2,000. But I'm going to need to make that investment if I want to take that next step into my photography business, which I want to. And again, it's not going to be easy kind of investing in yourself. It's not going to be easy like saving the money that you're going to want in these type of situations. But again, you're going to need to invest in yourself to kind of just reap the benefits later on, or kind of just like seeing the results. And this is regardless of like um photography, but this is just any business in general. Like if you're someone who like you want to get in business for yourself, you're going to need to invest in these things in order to be able to reap the benefits of what it is that you eventually like want for yourself. um yeah, and then with that, number 4, great communication. I say this because there are a lot of people who get into business, and again, this isn't particularly for like photography. This is just like business in general, who have terrible communication skills. You're responding 2-3 days after someone is like inquiring about something, or you're someone who you don't know how to talk to people well. You're someone who you kind of like have an attitude like when you talk to someone. You cannot do that if you want to survive in a business world. But if you want to see yourself grow, because you need to have good communication, you need to be able to talk to people. A lot of photography is talking to people, a lot of photography is marketing yourself, and in order to do those things, you need to be what is the word that I'm looking for? You need to be wow, I'm blanking on the word. There we go. You need to be approachable. That was what I'm looking for. You need to be approachable. You need to be able to, again, have conversations with someone, because a lot of times, and photographers will tell you, that you end up having weeks long conversation with someone until they finally book, or they finally decide that they don't want to book. And again, like throughout that week conversation that you end up having with that person, it needs to be good communication. You need to know how to talk to people in order to, again, be successful in the business that you want to have, and be successful in the business that you want to create for yourself. So again, that's top 4. And then the last thing that's on the list, which is kind of pretty self-explanatory, but again, I feel like it gets lost in translation sometimes, but it's to have fun. I personally believe that if I didn't think photography was fun, or if I didn't have a good time doing photography, I wouldn't do it. I'm not going to put myself in something that I feel like, okay, I'm just doing like just to survive, or like doing just because. But have fun with what you're doing. Like play around with the editing that you end up doing with like photos. Come up with like a lot of creative shoots. Again, like you never know like what it is that you eventually are gonna want for yourself, or you never know how like things are gonna turn out, right? But the whole purpose of being a photographer, or the whole purpose of why you ended up being interested in photography, was that you found it fun. You found it to be like something good. You found it to be something entertaining. So along the way, I know that, again, like starting out, like it's very like daunting. It's like, oh my gosh, like I want clients, like oh my gosh, like my pictures aren't as good as everybody else. You find yourself comparing yourself to other people. You find yourself like going weeks, months on ends without booking anybody. You start to question whether or not like you're good at doing what you're doing. But again, like if I can't emphasize this enough, is try to have fun along the way. And it's gonna make a difference, not only like for yourself and like for your self-esteem, but you'll also notice it in regards to how you eventually want to go about your business. So yeah, those are my top 5 tips for beginners. And again, I am can still consider myself a beginner myself. I'm only 2 years in. um but yeah, if that was like any piece of advice I can give to someone who wants to get into photography, then so be it. But yeah, other than that, that's going to be it for today's video, guys. Again, I'm doing Vlogmas throughout the rest of December. So I'll be seeing you guys for the next, 14 days? Yep, probably for the next 14 days. But yeah, if you guys haven't done so already, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And I will see you guys in my next video. Bye.